hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of what automation looks like and what the workflow looks like. We'll now look at some of the data that came off the system. So the first question is just regarding the passaging from one 6 well to another. So all the workflow showed here was using the Chinese hamster ovary cells grown in adherent conditions. And so demonstrated here is basically the results of one of our 6 well passages. Shown below is basically taking 4 regions of interest, taking 12 images for each region, using the SpectraMax Minimax imaging cytometer 24 hours after plating. And what you can see is that basically there's no clumps of cells, no clusters. So it looks like you had a really effective trypsinization of mixing. And the cluster evenly distributed across the 4 regions. So what you can see on the left is what the sheet manually, on the right is what the system was able to do in an automated fashion. We got very comparable percentages of confluence, right around 60%, and very low CVs in both cases, indicating, again, good dispersion across the wells. Looking across multiple passages now, so shown here are basically the automated and a comparison and manual of what I was able to achieve. And we look at on the left at cell count, and looking basically how consistent those were across passages, and also across automation versus manual. And on the right hand side is plotting viability, and so we were able to achieve consistently above 90% viability in all our 6 of our automated passages. More interesting is that actually, if you look, we were actually able to achieve results that were more consistent than I was able to achieve manually. So again, looking at CVs of 7.9% in an automated fashion when comparing cell counts across 6 passages was better than the 13.8% CVs I was able to achieve manually. You'll also notice that there was slightly less cells on average in the automated well, and that's likely because when we have the plate in a tilted fashion, I can't actually angle the pipette the way I can when I'm performing it manually. So there's that small 5 to 10%, probably 5% of the well that may not necessarily get rinsed down during the automated passage. So we're likely plating the same number of cells and culturing the same number of cells, but can't quite harvest the same number of cells. But again, we can do this more consistently, and this consistency can hopefully lead to more consistent results with our assays. When it comes to actually plating, the video demonstrated plating into 4 96 well plates, but we actually decided to take it one step further and try and plate into 2 384 well plates, doing 100 microliters multi-dispenses, much like we demonstrated in the video. And so again, 100 microliters per well times 768 wells. And what we were able to see is that we did, again, imaging after 24 hours. And we then looked to see did we get consistent distribution of the cells across the plates. So essentially, did our mixing in the reservoir work? Did we get roughly equivalent cells in all regions of the plate? And that's really 2.2% or lower across all the columns and rows across both of the plates. And finally, we looked at how consistent was our multi-dispense. Basically, were we getting the same number of cells for each dispense in all of the 8 quadrants? And when we compared the average counts per quadrant, we saw DG is less than 7%. So again, very consistent passaging and plating, hopefully resulting in consistent assay results. Another consideration that we touched on earlier is multi-day workflows. So for example, we just plated our 96 or 384 well plates. How long do these plates need to incubate? Is there an additional treatment? How long until we assay them? These things all have to be taken into consideration because very rarely is this a single day of approach. So when automating these types of approaches, there's a number of requirements. One main one is that you need to have good resource management and scheduling, and this comes back to our Sandy EX software, where again, when you're processing multiple plates, it will find the most efficient way to process those plates in batch-wise fashion. It also requires sample tracking. You need to know where your samples are at any given time in the workflow, and you also need to know if your Vimac will be available on a given day. So if you have interleaved multi-day workflows, our Sandy process management software can help schedule these things on a calendar, so you can ensure that, again, will you need to come in on a weekend? Is the instrument already being taken out for other assays on a given day? And finally, you need good data tracking, and this is where our data acquisition and reporting tool DART comes into account. Basically, these types of multi-day assays may be made up of little islands of automation, right, where you will bring it in on day 0, see the cells, send them to the incubator, bring them back on day 3, treat them. DART is basically our tool that every time that plate comes in, it can read the barcode and know everything that's been done to that plate to date, and all of that information is carried forward, so that essentially your treatment and your eventual assay result will all be located in the same database on the same well. So to wrap up the automated cell culture portion of the talk today, hopefully I've shown you that we were able to handle larger well plates and flasks, really using the fan capabilities. But having that combination of pipetters, the fan for those 6 well plates and the multi-channel for the microtiter plates, really is valuable for this type of workflow. There are some caveats. One is that you may need to do some optimization for any given new cell line. One example is the frequency of passaging. So for example, when we were passing the TrueCAD cells, we would pass them every 2 days and they were completely happy. The show cells, when we tried to passage them every 2 days, things actually die off a little bit, and so that's why we backed it off to 3 days. Another consideration is the trypsinization workflows for adherent cells. One is just the trypsinization time. 5 minutes of incubation worked great for the show cell lines, but the HCT116 cells were a little more aggregated, and so you might want to consider extending that time closer to 7 to 8 minutes. In addition, the volume that you transfer into the next well is somewhat dependent on just your cell size. For example, if you have a confluent HCT116 well, you can fit about 5 million cells per well, as opposed to the show cells where a confluent well only has 2.5 times 10 to the 6. So if you're transferring 1 million cells into the next well, and you're concerned about residual trypsin, you're actually transferring twice the amount of volume in the show cells as you are in the HCT116. So if you do find the need to either spin out any of those reagents, obviously there are some automated solutions for that as well, and you can do media exchanges and not have to worry about residual trypsin. And finally, it comes down to mixed ups as well. As I mentioned, the HCT116 cells were a little more clumping than the show cells were, and so we basically increased the number of mixes that we performed. Another consideration is the plating needs. One of the nice features of the Vimac is that you're able to do data-driven decisions. So for example, if your cells haven't grown as much as you thought they might, and you're already in the middle of passaging them, you can actually just have some if-then statements indicating that if you don't have a high enough number of cells, do your self-plating, you can just go ahead and passage them and push it off for another couple days without wasting all the plastic. So that basically wraps up the talk. We'll kind of try and bring it back to the simplicity, efficiency, adaptability, and reliability, and see if we've hopefully shown some examples of how these apply to cellular applications. When it comes to simplicity, having that volume splitting feature, where again, it really doesn't necessarily care what the volume is you transfer. You don't necessarily need to put in any sort of conditional statements for scripting. Whatever the results from the buy-sell come back, we can always just basically have it split the number of transfers it needs to get the correct volume. Also having the integrations be more direct. Obviously, you can fit a lot of instruments in a smaller footprint, and not necessarily requiring any additional robotic transports to access these devices really increases the simplicity of those types of integrated systems. When it comes to efficiency, we have the high-capacity deck. There's just more room, more real estate to work with, so you can really have these more highly complex workloads as you need. You can all fit on potentially onto the same deck. And there's also the ability to do the large volume transfers with a multi-channel head, as we demonstrated for the plating video. And obviously, this can really just make it a more efficient workflow. You can process more plates in a more rapid fashion. When it comes to adaptability, hopefully I've shown that we were able to automate a pretty diverse number of workflows on the same system, really kind of indicating that yes, these really can be adapted to pretty much any need you have. And also the ability to use a multi-channel selective chip really does increase the flexibility of that multi-channel head. So again, you're able to do more with that head alone. And when it comes to reliability, obviously having the remote monitoring, some of these cellular applications, the ELISA in particular, can take multiple hours. So if you want to just be able to check on your system, it should still be running, but again, being able to monitor what's happening remotely does provide you that extra sense of security. And having our pro service, being able to access any sort of error logs or those video files, really should be able to help decrease any downtime that the system might have. So with that, I'll wrap up. Obviously, we have more information available. I just kind of touched on some of the applications, but if you want more details, such as the volumes we were using or the specific reagents, that type of information can be found in our application notes, as well as a variety of other resources that can be found at biomex.technet.com. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Kowalski, for that informative presentation. So it is time for Q&A. If you have a question you'd like to ask Dr. Kowalski, please do so now. Just click on the green Q&A button at the lower left of the presentation window, type your question into the box that appears on your screen, and click on the send button. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for. And the first question is, how do you successfully automate cell culture without the tilting out by optimizing pipetting?
That's a great question, and again, it might necessarily depend on a given workflow. For example, the large one-well plates, as they're called, that would potentially be a little trickier to kind of work our way around. But the 6-well plate, we are able to demonstrate around the circumference, and that would be just an effective way of removing the media without disturbing the cell. It might just take a little longer to kind of execute that process. So there's definitely a time and a place for the tilting out where it provides value, but certainly not required for most of the plates up to the very large, maybe one-well plates, or for example, the autoclads, which really only have a single point of entry. That's where, again, the tilting out might be required. Otherwise, it may just have benefits for some of the plates, but probably isn't necessary.
How hard is it to adapt the automation to different workflows?
That's also a good question. So the workflows I've shown today were all essentially done using the same deck, but obviously it depends what system you'd be working on. Having the i7 hybrid sort of provides you with the most flexibility, but there are certain occasions where, again, depending on your workload, if things are changing dramatically, you can imagine possibly needing to change what devices are integrated to the system. One of the nice things on the iSeries is, again, there's more universality of the integration, so those do become more easily swapped in and out. But when it comes to just changing the positions on the deck, for example, if you needed more heating and cooling positions or more shaking positions, or had some direct integration that changed your deck configuration, that's very easily done. That's basically just popping out the current L positions, putting on the next positions, and then doing a quick auto frame using our tools that are available. When it comes to possibly swapping out heads, for example, you can change between the 96 and the 384 multi-channel head. That process is basically just unscrewing 4 screws and screwing them back in. So even changing for that type of workflow is very rapid. So it's basically built and designed to have high levels of flexibility. So again, barring some sort of massive reconstruction of your needs, it should be very quickly able to switch between workflows, or otherwise you may be able to just automate a number of workflows on a single configuration.
How do you handle contamination?
Yeah, so this comes up a lot, actually. So in 7 years of doing this, I've only run into it once, and my way of dealing with it was to throw off a contaminated plate. I really didn't have any other problems. That's kind of one of the benefits that, in theory, if things are working right, you shouldn't really be spreading contamination. So if you want to treat it the way I would treat a contaminated incubator, you can spray things down with ethanol. But just throwing away the plate was sufficient for me. I didn't really have any continuing problems after that. There was not really any need to do anything extreme. But there are certainly, we do have information on chemical compatibility. People really need more information about sterilization. But honestly, for me, everything stays pretty well contained within the plate, so throwing it out took care of my problem.
And in time we're waiting for additional questions to come in, I would like to once again thank Dr. Kowalski for his presentation. Do you have any final comments?
Again, just want to thank everyone for attending today. Obviously, we're available for additional information when it comes to cellular workloads, or obviously my colleagues have presented on some genomic workflows as well. So this is actually just one aspect of what you can do with automation and what you can do with the Biomic iSeries. So we're happy to always provide more additional information as required.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to thank our sponsor, Beckman Coulter Life Sciences, for making today's educational webcast possible. Before we go, I want to let everyone know that today's webcast will be available for on-demand viewing through October 20th, 2017. You'll receive an email from LabRoots letting you know when this webcast will be available for replay. Be sure to note with your colleagues may have missed today's live event. That's all for now. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again soon. Bye. everyone. Welcome to today's live broadcast, The Essential Role of the Molecular Identification of Microorganisms in the Management of Chronic Infections. I'm Kristen Nightingale of LabRoots, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. We're delighted to bring you this educational web seminar presented by LabRoots. We have a few important announcements before we begin. This webcast is designed to be interactive, and we encourage you to ask questions during the event. You can submit questions by typing them in the Q&A box, which can be found by clicking on the green Q&A button at the lower left of the presentation window. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. You can enlarge the slide window by clicking on the screen icon in the lower right-hand corner of the slide window. If you have any technical problems viewing or hearing this presentation, please click on the support button at the top right of your presentation window, or submit your problem through the green Q&A button lower left. This is an educational webinar and thus offers free continuing education credits. After the webinar is over, please click on the CE button located in the bottom left-hand corner of your webpage and follow the process of obtaining your credits. I would now like to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Randall Wolcott. Dr. Wolcott is the founder of the Southwest Regional Wound Care Center in Lubbock, Texas. The Wound Care Center specializes in biofilm-based wound care. The Wound Care Center offers state-of-the-art technology with molecular diagnostics and state-of-the-art alternative medicine, including customized topical wound gels. He is passionate about healing wounds. I will now turn it over to Dr. Wolcott for his presentation.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ray Wolcott, and we want to welcome you to this LabRoots presentation. That title's a little bit intimidating, and basically what we're going to talk about is how molecular methods, not just DNA methods, have expanded a little bit, how the identification of microorganisms is becoming more sophisticated, and then we'll broaden it out. The last time I spoke, it was about chronic wounds. This time we're going to broaden it out to chronic infections, because I think it will include more of your interest if we do that. Erasmus, a long time ago, said, in the land of the mind, the one-eyed man is king. And basically, when you have a diagnostic test, when you can look in and see the reality of what's happening in whatever you're interested in, you have vision. But I would caution Erasmus, and I would say, it's not just what you see, it's what you understand. And what I hope I can do for you is get you excited about this stuff, where it's going. This truly is a quantum shift in medicine. And the diagnostic tests, the ability to see the microorganisms in reality and with measurements, with scientific certainty, is changing the whole game. But before I go into that, let me talk to you about my conflict of interest. I am a part owner in a laboratory, a molecular laboratory, and so I want to brag about it a little bit. NASA came to our laboratory and said, hey, we got this Mars rover, the Curiosity, and we want to make sure there's no microbes on that. And so we did our DNA-based evaluation, and there was no microbes on that. And it was cool, and it gives you a lot of credibility because, you work with NASA, that's really cool. But then we got to thinking, why did they care? I mean, what's it matter if we send some bacteria up to Mars? Well, what we found was that the Martians, ever since the War of the Worlds movie, they don't like our bacteria. And the point on this is what Mark Twain said so long ago. He said back in the 1800s, there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. And the more papers I read, I realize that people can work their statistics to prove just about any point. I'm going to try to be as open and honest on this as we can. I know I've got a position in this, I've got a bias, but hopefully we can tell you what's settled science, what's certain, and then what we think and where we think this is going. So it's from a clinical perspective more than a scientific perspective. So let's start with chronic infections. You know that even non-health care professionals know that what a chronic infection is versus an acute infection. And basically, an acute infection comes quickly. You get 3 to 5 to 7 days of antibiotics. It clears the infection, and it doesn't come back. Chronic infections, well, they wax and they wane. You use antibiotics to get a little bit better. But they come back, they're chronic. And so, but if you ask physicians, well, what is a chronic infection? They'll start to list it's infections with bacteria, but the host must be broken. There must be poor perfusion, or there must be scar tissue, or the immune system is impaired, or something like that. That's the way they think of chronic infections, but that's just not true. Okay, it is a microbial-based problem, and that's what we're going to try to discuss with this slide, is just what is a chronic infection, then we'll go into the scope of the problem. So, way back in the dark ages, 7 years ago, we were trying to give information to clinicians. When should they think that they're dealing with a biofilm-based infection? And what we found was everything that we found to link to biofilm infection was really a description of a chronic infection. And then last year, the European Infectious Disease Society came out with some guidelines on chronic infections. And what they started, their guideline, their abstract on there was biofilms cause chronic infections. So that's a settled science, okay? So this is the best of the best across the continent of Europe, and it's supported by many microbiologists and scientists throughout the United States. And basically, it's this bacteria growing as biofilms that causes the symptom complex that we call a chronic infection, whether it's in the sinus, whether it's in the gut, whether it's on the heart valve, whether it's in the lung, or for us, if it's on the skin, of chronic wounds. So this is a really important, again, quantum shift in medicine, because now we know what our target is. We have a clear understanding of what is a chronic infection. So what does that mean? Well, in the scope of medicine, every tissue can suffer a chronic infection, whether it's the sinus, whether it's
me see if I can give you some guidance here. Whether it's a sinus or whether it's cystic fibrosis or COPD, whether it's an infected medical device like a hip or a knee, infected heart valve or rust, skin, chronic wound or burn, that's biofilm. And if you look at how each discipline has come to treat their biofilm disease, it's usually with episodic antibiotics, neglect, let the patient go, and then when the tissue that's infected, like the sinus or the lungs, if it's integrated, then they strip the sinuses, they transplant the lungs with cystic fibrosis, they replace the heart valve, they take out the metal prosthesis, and for wound care providers, we cut off the leg. Now, my point is these are infections. These are chronic infections. We know the target. And so the better way to treat that infection is not to remove body parts, but for us to understand that, and that's where diagnostic test comes in, cure that, which is the holy grail, and prevent those loss of limb, loss of the heart valve, just stop the carnage of removing body parts. To make it more personal, we've launched into a different area of research, and that's atherosclerosis. And what we found, and there's a couple articles just in case you're interested in that, is kind of the mechanism of how biofilm could cause atherosclerosis. And then the second thing is we were able to go into atherosclerotic plaques, harvested in situ, and find the biofilm structures of clusters and voids in between. So that arrangement of bacteria cannot be contamination. So it's grown there. It's grown in these very dense clusters, which we call biofilm. So there is biofilm atherosclerosis. So now that makes it personal. There's not a one of us out there that doesn't have that. There's not a one of you listeners and myself that doesn't have periodontal disease. And then a third of us have other chronic infections. So this is a very, very wide problem throughout medicine. And that's why the diagnostic test is so important. Well, I'm a wound care physician. Wounds are accessible. Atherosclerotic plaques are hard. Heart valves are hard. Sinuses are hard to get to. But wounds are chronic infections of skin and skin structures. And we can use that to find out the basic principles of the host-microbe interaction in this kind of infection. And then take those principles that we learn in wounds and apply them across the other types of chronic infections. Chronic wounds are chronic infections. That is not settled science. That's the shift that's taking place in the wound care community. So this is a patient that was sent to me from New Mexico, and the provider called me up and said, I have this patient with pyoderma gangrenosum, and this patient has necrotic granulation tissue. And we've watched this wound for 3 or 4 months, and it's just eaten into her leg, and we need something done. But we know we can't debride it because you don't debride pyoderma. So for you that don't know about pyoderma gangrenosum, if you debride it, it causes a pathogen response, a hyperinflammatory response that causes tissue damage that makes the wound get worse. So, I mean, the provider was correct in that, but this is not granulation tissue. This is dead tissue. Now, the reason I use this patient as an illustration is we always talk about the host being the roots or the cause of the chronic wound, diabetes, poor circulation, repetitive pressure, neuropathy, an impaired immune system, and the list goes on and on. But it's always they're thinking about the host as the reason. Well, this lady doesn't have any of those things. She has no autoimmune diseases or whatever. What she has is bacteria eating down into her flesh. So we did do debridement, but we did debridement and controlled the microbes because we had a diagnostic test. And then within about 3.5 months, you see the picture to the right, we had granulation tissue, and that's granular. You see the little lumps, grains, and you see the red color and stuff. So there is no such thing as necrotic granulation tissue. But at the end of the day, it's not host impairments that causes the wound. It's a chronic infection that causes the wound. So how do we prove that? So let's start at the beginning. You have a defect through the skin. You've got this deep cavity down into the subcutaneous tissue, tendon, the muscle, and stuff like that. And there's no question that there's some bacteria in that. Okay, so that bacteria can do one of 3 things. It can do something positive, like a commensal. It can help that wound heal. Well, commensals have communication with the host. They have specific cells that communicate with them, specific cytokines, and those mechanisms are more robust than we ever imagined. Well, the muscle, tendon, bone, subcutaneous tissue doesn't contain those cells, doesn't contain those cytokines. So there can never be commensals at that level. In fact, it's a permissive environment. And we get a lot of pushback when we say, well, this is caused by staph epidermidis, this one, that's what's infected. They say, well, that's commensal. It cannot cause infection. That's not true. It's not infected when it's under host control. But when it gets in that permissive environment, surely it can cause infection. The other thing the bacteria can do is just be a contaminant. And like this picture here, this is some extracellular matrix of the host, and there's a single bacteria there, and that's what you'd expect. You'd expect a few single cell or little clusters of bacteria that spread out on the wound bed, and they're not doing any harm, and we know what a contaminant is. So then what do you do about this? In this one, we have rods. We have some very small cocci down here. We have some bigger cocci in other places. So this is a polymicrobial group of bacteria. You see these strands of material that are binding into the host surface. Well, that's host protein. that's fibrinogen that's been polymerized to fibrin, and it weaves itself in. It also puts a coat of sugars around itself, so there's a matrix. So that is a biofilm. It's polymicrobial. It's encased in matrix material, and it's attached to a surface. Okay, so this is a way to